Please let this work. Please let this work. Please let this work. Hello and welcome to RDTV. Just bear with me 1 second while I check to see if we are up and running after a few, thank you very much for live streaming, technical difficulties. So, one momento. I see we have a live stream. Please let this work. Please let this work. Woohoo! It works. Hello and welcome to RDTV. My name's Paul and this is F1 2020. So, we are working. I've deleted my last one. And this is our second stab at Formula 1 2020. Early access. Available on PC July the 7th. The Michael Schumacher edition available the main go on July the 10th. So, let me just see if everything's running smooth. Yes, it is. Right, sorry about delays. We'll start again and we'll rerun this bit. First things first, a mouse. In 2020, an essential piece of hardware for a PC gamer. Sadly, this is a thing we do not need for F1 2020, because once again, it's keyboard only. Yippee-ki-yay, so I will be moving around the screens with my buttons. Now, just to clarify, this is Race Department YouTube. You'll have seen a few videos available on RD now where we've got some gameplay, we've got the season review, we've got a look at my team in more detail. So I'm going to go over these things during our live stream. I've got no particular time limit as to how long I'm going to have this running for. So let's just have some fun until we get bored. Feel free to post some questions in the chat on the YouTube video. I will pause periodically and have a look, see if anybody's watching. And if you are watching, answer any questions that you may have, look at any content that you might want to look at or any particular parts of the game. But let's get rocking and rolling in a Grand Prix. Now, anyone who's played Formula 1 franchise from Codemasters will know having it in windowed mode and going out of that window and back in again leads to game crashes. Now, on the setup I've got here, I've got a big widescreen monitor, the single monitor. So I've been faffing trying to get this stream working for the last 10 minutes. So hopefully, when I get into an actual Grand Prix, it's not going to crash on me. If it does, we'll restart. It's no problem. It's not the end of the world. So, a couple of caveats I got in my release notes from Codemasters for this preview copy. Liveries will be updated, so you can see the Mercedes in the launch livery at the moment. That will be updated, hopefully, for when we go live on July the 7th with the Schumacher edition. If I spin all the way down to Williams, that one's already been done, which is cool. So F7 and F8, I have to look down at my keyboard, apologies for that one, it's so frustrating, it's unbelievable. But the Williams, has already been updated to the new livery. It started with a Rocket Foam one when I first got this game. And McLaren have had some tweaks to their halo as well, and obviously Mercedes have gone for the all-black, really cool matte livery. So, as you can imagine, all the cars, teams and drivers of 2020 are part of the game. How cool does that Toro Rosso look, by the way? Force India, Alfa Romeo. Not Force India, Racing Point. So for this one, we will be Danny Ricciardo. The new drivers are in. Danny Ricciardo still looks moderately scary on his avatar. Esteban Ocon. He had a decent run out last time, didn't he? And then all the tracks from 2020, including the ones that haven't made it on the calendar, such as Vietnam, awful. The brand new Zandvoort, whoop whoop, and the rest. So we'll start with one of the new tracks. We'll start with Zandvoort. And again, usual options, very, very familiar stuff to anybody who's raced F1 2019 or even 2018. So a lot of more of the same that we've seen before. One of the cool things, I'm going to change dynamic weather to clear and dry. One of the cool things that I've found about this, it's got automated DRS now. So I'm using a wheel that doesn't have a button box on it. So automatic DRS for me is a very welcome inclusion into the game. So let's get started and see how things go. Hope it doesn't crash. Beautiful Zandvoort. I wasn't... Skip through this. That's skippable as well now, which I couldn't do in F1 2019. So that's a nice relief, especially for anybody who's making videos. Right, here we go. Da-da-da-da. And there comes my first bugbear of the game. I forgot to do this because we were having a second live stream. For some reason, the game will not remember your controller settings. Again, just like F1 2019, there are a few bugs and they've carried over into the new game, which is a real frustration. So every time you fire it up, you've got to go into controller settings and retell it which one you want. Now obviously I've saved our controller setting. I'm using a direct drive wheel. I've got a Leo Bodner Sim Steering version 2 with a Sparco rim attached to it. Really nice wheel. And it works really nice actually on direct drive, so we'll continue the Grand Prix. Works really nice on direct drive. I've mentioned it in my review in the written form and in the video as well. The force feedback is slightly improved. We'll talk about it as we're doing this race. It's slightly improved over F1 2019. It's still not Assetto Corsa iRacing R Factor 2 ACC levels, not by any stretch of the imagination. But for what it is perfectly serviceable. Right. So here we go, reach optimum levels. And we're off! Whoa, too busy looking at the tiring screen. Hit the wall straight away, great start, Paul. Into the new reprofiled Tarzan hairpin. It's really awesome to see Zandvoort on the F1 calendar. It's a shame that COVID-19 came and spoilt things for us all. We're not replacing the front wing, we're going to battle on. It's a shame that we've not got to see it in the real life, but it's great to have it in game. And one thing you'll know... Oh yeah, we do have to replace front wing. Let's restart. One thing you'll hit... Live television. One thing you'll notice about Codemasters and the F1 franchise. The graphics are great. So this is a step up in graphics from F1 2019 in my opinion. And I love how you'll see like Zandvoort's next to a beach, for example. You'll see how the track... Why won't I go? You'll see how the track starts off dusty. And it's got a really good atmosphere around it all. Look how mucky it is coming into Tarzan. Offline you can see the sand and everything, you can see the little bits of debris floating up, and if you're in like Monza or something and you're going under the trees, you can see all the little bits of foliage and everything on the circuit. You can see bits of everything floating about. They do a really good job from a visuals point of view, and the track feels really pretty accurate. I've driven Zandvoort 2020 layout in R Factor 2, which is obviously a laser scan, and this one feels very, very similar to the R Factor 2 version in terms of the radius of the corners, the elevation changes and everything. Now, that's not something that you can guarantee is the case in a Formula 1 game. Spa-Francorchamps is wildly inaccurate compared to the laser scan versions that I've driven up to this point, but Zandvoort they seem to have done a really nice job. Another caveat to remember as well from the release notes by Codemasters, signage placements are provisional. This is early access after all, so it might change ever so slightly from the full version 1 release that you get hold of beginning July 7th, which is tomorrow from the date of this live stream. But so far, it's all very nice. Now again, anybody familiar with the Formula 1 franchise will be instantly at home in F1 2020. It is slightly improved over previous iterations of the franchise. The sounds, I think, are much, much better. Again, on the Race Department YouTube channel, I've got a video on there with a direct comparison between 2020 and 2019, and I think the audio is far superior on the new game. So I'll shut up for a moment and let you have a listen. You can see what I mean. The audio is much nicer in 2020. Seems a lot crisper, a lot closer to what reality looks like, or sounds like, should I say, in the new game. Very impressed. I don't like the audio because obviously I don't like Formula 1 hybrid technology. It's not an audio experience that I particularly enjoy. But, they replicate it well in the new game, which is really nice. You can see the driver's hands are changing various things on the steering wheel. I've got ERS and I've got DRS automated by the game, because as I say, the lack of buttons on my steering wheel, and that's nice. ERS was automated in 2019, but DRS not, so it's really nice to have that option. The DRS deployment is a little bit slower than it would be if you were doing it manually, so manual button pressers still have the competitive advantage, which is good. So it still keeps it optimal for you to be using it manually. But again, as I say, the wheel I'm using for this one doesn't have the buttons for me to be able to press it, and I don't fancy reaching across to hit my button box and get things going. For everybody who's watching the stream, by the way, the quality is a little bit lower than I would like it to be, but I had a few technical issues this morning for some reason, not wanting it to work properly, so my apologies for that one. The camera's a bit blurred, the face cam is a bit pasty looking, and the resolution of the game itself is nowhere near as high as I would like it to be. So I will try and work out what's gone wrong. Everything was fine last night, as it always is when I tested, and then this morning it's all decided to go blah. So sorry about that one, but hopefully it'll keep you entertained over your morning coffee before you crack on with the business of getting back to work or doing whatever it is that you're doing today on this Monday morning in semi-lockdown times. Right, we've talked about audio. We've very briefly flirted with the graphics. I'll just go back onto that one again a minute before we get back to racing. I'm using PC, as I say. I have got a HDR monitor, but I've not got HDR turned on for this video because when you're watching it in a non-HDR monitor, it kind of looks a bit pants. So in HDR, this game looks absolutely resplendent. Oh, we've got a run now on the Alpha. Who is it? Kimmy. Kimmy, are all four of your wheels attached, sir? It wasn't last time. Too far back though at the moment. It's in a bit of a battle, so we'll try and sneak past as we finish. So I've got it in non-HDR. It still looks really good. Graphically, it runs nice and smooth, just like the last game ran nice and smooth. It's got some finer details. The shadows, to me, look like they've been worked a little bit harder in F1 2020 than the previous game. So racing at the right time of day, somewhere like Monza, where you go under the trees, looks absolutely beautiful. Rain, which we'll have a look at in a short while, looks absolutely fabulous as well. The wet weather conditions in Formula 1 games have always been really good. And again, F1 2020 is absolutely no different. Looks glorious. And handles really nice as well, actually. It's quite believable in the new game. I've raced in there's wet and very wet conditions, just like previous ones. Now, racing wet, and it really does feel sweet. Well impressed with how they've got that one. We're going to get Kimmy on the last lap. Dragged to the line. Come on, Renault power! Not enough, not enough. Finish last. Good start. I will indeed, thank you. Thank you for your advice. Yeah, so graphically it's looking really nice in F1 2020. There's obviously, it's not night and day difference. It's a franchise game. It's never going to be night and day difference. Characters are still scary. Look at Bonotto. Characters are still scary. As is Sebastian, very intense eyes. But we'll skip through all this one and get back out on track again. Shut up, Crafty. So there you go. That's the 2020 Zandvoort Grand Prix circuit. Beautiful venue. Let's have a look now. Do you know, when I'm playing a game like this and I'm looking through the calendar, it makes me realise how boring the Formula 1 calendar is. So I look at the tracks and think, no, don't fancy that, don't fancy that. What car should we be next? I'm going to do one more race, and then I'm going to have a look in the comments and the chat and see if anybody's got anything they want to talk about or me to look at. So I'll just do the next race. I'll do it podium finisher. Lando, by the way, great score on that one for Austria, and we'll do Austria as well. Let's see if we can replicate it. Let's knock the distance up a little bit, 'cause 5 laps is too short. Let's do 25%, and let's make sure we've got dry weather, because I don't want to talk about rain just yet. We'll do light cloud. Sweet. Lando, by the way, beautiful result. Well done, boy. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Right. Skip. So good that you can skip this. When I was doing the review last year, I had to watch it all the way through, including the starting grid. So frustrating. To be able to skip this is wicked. Right. Here we go. Let's get started and we'll carry on. So, clutch in. Find the optimal rev range, which I can't find. There we go. P7 on the grid, which is not far away from where Lando was, actually. 4th, I think. Bit of a dicey start again. And that talks quite nicely, actually. This is a good track to display, or to explain about the handling. So, as in the last game, you've got to be careful on the throttle. We'll see it into this hairpin, drop it into first gear. You've got to really baby the throttle coming out the corners, otherwise you're going to be absolutely all over the place with rear traction. The car is loose on corner exit. Whoa, ran up into me there, messed the Esteban. It's not unusual for Esteban Ocon. The car is really loose on heavy acceleration from a slow speed corner, just like F1 2019 was. But the big difference is the force feedback is a little bit more intuitive. It explains a little bit more about what the car is doing than the previous game. These are a terribly difficult set of corners. They don't look hard, but they are. So you can control it better. So you can actually control slides now. I found in 2019, sometimes when you get above the edge of grip, there's no way of bringing it back. But in 2020, Sainz robustly defends, in 2020 I feel like I can bring slides back much easier than I could do in 2019. There you go, see, a little bit of traction lossage. And that's really welcomed. That's made it a lot more drivable when you've got all the assists off. There's also what it feels to me, and it could be in setup. I never touch setups because I don't know anything about them. But there's an element of slightly more turning understeer than we got in the 2019 game. So the steering in general, I've got the same force feedback settings, by the way. So if your wheel is already set up for 2019, it will work out of the box in 2020, which is good news. The steering's a little teeny bit lighter by default, which is a good thing. It still loads up under high-speed, heavy downforce conditions, but with it being a little bit lighter, it feels slightly more detailed in the slower speed corners, so I can feel the tyres a little bit more. I can feel the car dancing on edge a little bit more than I could in 2019. Not night and day by any stretch of the imagination, and if you've spent considerable amounts of time away from 2019, then you'd probably struggle to pick up the small detail differences. I had to do a back-to-back to refresh myself a little bit on what the original game, well, not the original game, but what the last game felt like. So I use this word, I only ever use the word incremental when I'm talking about Formula 1 games, but it's a great way of describing it. It's an incremental improvement. Not massive, and it can't be massive, because at the end of the day, this is a franchise game. They come out every year, so they're not going to be significantly different changes between the two games. But it's good enough. It does the job. Still feels a little bit dampened for my taste. So it's still a lot less alive than other racing sims. But frankly, it's a Formula 1 car. I would expect it to. It's got huge massive slicks. It's got more downforce than is reasonable and sensible in 2020. So the car's going to be a little bit dampened. It's not like driving a Lotus Cortina at Road America or something like that. The car will be fairly stable, fairly flat. And as I said last year, and the same applies this year, it's not genre leading force feedback, but it's incredibly serviceable and it does not detract from the gaming experience. Something else that's worth saying, actually, for anybody who's watching this stream that doesn't know me from my time at Race Department, I am what you would consider to be a hardcore sim racer, so the more realistic the better. So I'm coming at this game very much from the perspective of a sim racer. It's very much from the perspective of somebody that likes tinkering in R Factor 2. Thank you. That likes tinkering in R Factor 2, that likes the uber detail of something like Assetto Corsa Competizione. So the gameplay aspects of this may be a little bit, oh look, I've been drafted. Look at that, I've been left out to dry big time. Danny Rick closing the door, that was my line, sunshine. Wow, been mugged there. And from a sim racer's point of view, this is, like I say, perfectly serviceable. It's a decent handling experience. And it's exactly good enough for what the Formula 1 franchise aims to be. And I would argue, from an offline single player point of view, this is probably the best racing game out there. I know I've just had a couple of contacts, which doesn't sell the story I'm about to tell you now really that well. But the AI in Formula 1 2020 is absolutely fantastic. I've obviously only driven this game offline, because it's not out yet, so I can't do the online side of things. And the experience I've had against the AI has been brilliant. They overtake, they fight, they defend, they mostly are spatially aware and behave themselves. It's a brilliant offline experience. I'm carrying a little bit of damage now, so I seem to be going backwards, which is annoying. I've got damage set to simulation, by the way, which maybe while talking and driving's not the most intelligent thing I've ever done. But there you see, look, the Williams going for the dive up the inside. George Russell, who so deserves a better drive than a Williams, going for the dive up the inside, so they pass. They defend, they cut the line off, they cover the inside, line into corners. It's a beautiful AI experience, actually. And the level is really quite high. I mean, I've lowered it for this talk and drive because obviously I'm not giving it my all. It's early in the morning, I don't know what day of the week it is, I've had no breakfast, etc, etc, and I'm talking to everybody on camera. So I have lowered it, but 100% is a very difficult percentage to race against. So if you're in a Williams, let's say, and you've got the settings at a reasonable level, there ain't no way you're going to run away with a race victory. You're going to be doing exactly what Williams do and fighting towards the lower reaches of the midfield at the absolute best, which I really like. And balancing is something else that they're still to do from an AI point of view, because obviously when the game came out, DRS is awful, isn't it? Look at that. Caution, caution. When the game first came out, the cars had not driven on track, so Codemasters have admitted, Leclerc at the side of the road, they're going to be balancing the AI as things go to get a realistic take on where all the team's cars and drivers are in terms of the pecking order, which is really cool. But they don't seem to be doing a bad job, actually, so far. Things are reasonably realistic. Maybe Ferrari are a little bit too competitive at the moment. Maybe Mercedes don't walk away with things as much as they should do at the front of the field, but for the most part, pretty good guesswork from Codemasters, which suggests that maybe Formula 1 is a little bit too predictable. But hey ho, that's a story for an entirely different stream further down the line. That little beep, by the way, is my DRS opening up.
We're approaching the pit window. You'll be on the mediums.
Oh no, pit stops. Oh, that's something I weren't expecting. I've never pit stopped in this game. Could be bad. We'll find out. See how that one goes. So yeah, AI I think is brilliant. Look at the sparks flying up at the back of the two cars. Look at the fighting. The AI's fighting between themselves as well. You don't. Whoa. You don't get that much in racing sims. So kudos to Codemasters for the way they programmed the AI. It seems a little bit better. It was good in F1 2019, but it seems like a bit of work has gone into it, and it's better yet in F1 2020. So that's a big, well, not a big improvement, but that is an improvement that it makes for good stuff in the new game. Really pleased with the offline experience, and of course we'll have a look at it very shortly after I've answered some questions at the end of this race. But of course we've got my team as well now, which is another nice new feature in the game. So now the career mode has been expanded greatly. I was no fan of the career mode in the last game. I'm no fan of career modes in any game, to be fair, but I was no fan of the career mode in the last game. It felt a bit awkward and a bit cheesy. But this time with my team, you can develop your own car, get sponsors, drivers, pick an engine, design the livery, and become the 11th team on the Formula 1 grid. And how they've put together, from what I've seen of that, is really, really good. I like the My Team feature. Check we're still online. Yes, we are. Wow, I look pasty in that screenshot. So how they've done My Team is really well put together. And like I say, we'll look at that one in a little bit more detail after we've done the questions at the end of this Grand Prix. The customization, by the way, just a spoiler alert in case you get too excited, you can't drop your liveries in after doing it in Photoshop like in a traditional modded game. There are templates that Codemasters provide you, and then you can tweak the colours, the sponsor placements and sponsor colours, etc, etc, as I run totally wide. But it's limited in its reach to a point, but it's still nice to have that. Renault power, no match for Ferrari power. So push lap now before our very first, ladies and gentlemen, live on stream, our very first pit stop. Never done one before, was totally not expecting pit stops when upping the race distance for this video. So bit of an oversight on my part as we dive down the inside of George Russell. Got to be careful though. Corner exit, we've got DRS. Russell tries to close us down a little bit but leaves us racing room. Thank you, George, good man. Later on the brakes than I am, stays around my outside, closes the door actually there. I would have expected space to have been left, so that was a bit shoddy from GR. But not to fear, because we're coming into the pits this lap. I have mapped pit lane speed limiter, but I have absolutely no idea which button that is. So this could well go south.
Yellow flag.
Ooh, yellow flag. Everybody's in the pits this lap actually, so that's useful. See if my McLaren boys have been practicing during the off-season. Excellent! Automatic pit stop. Yippee-ki-yay. Look at this! Animated pit crew. Get clutch in. Reach optimal revs. It's putting a new nose cone on as well, so that's going to cost me lap time. Go! May go the clutch too early then. Looks nice though, doesn't it? I like the animation and everything. It's a nice touch.
Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now.
There we go, that's the pit lane speed limiter button. So you don't put the pit lane speed limiter on, but you have to turn it off. And that's relegated us to last of the runners. It's like Carlos Sainz is out as well. So, fresh boots. I've also set, for the sake of this video, well, I'm assuming I've set it because he's changed my tyres for me, automated pit stop strategy.
Carlos is out of the race.
So again, you can take these into your control if you so wish, or you can let the computer look after it for you, which is really cool. The reason I tend to automate a lot of these strategic things and fuel levels and everything is back to that whole not having mouse support issue. What tends to happen with Codemasters games, and I'm sure you all live in this same frustration as I do, is the menus, you have to press like F5 or F6 to progress through the menu or whatever, and it's exactly the same as in the last games. sometimes it'll bring up the little button thing and it'll say press button 6. What's button 6 then? I've got no idea. Doesn't work like that. Tell me to press F1 or F2 or something. I don't know what button 6 is. And it'll be like downshift or something stupid like that, or the 30-second button on my button box or something ridiculous. So there's been a few times when I'm stuck in a menu, so I just don't know which button to press. I really despise that design decision. It frustrates the living daylights out of me. And that, I believe, is because this is a console and a PC game. So this has been ported into the PC, and they've just not gone that extra mile for things like mouse support or sensible button nameage or button use routines, which is a real shame. But it is what it is. So, we were talking about AI. As I say, I think it's one of the strongest AI. It works in all conditions. So I've driven in the rain, I've driven in the dry, and the AI behaves really well. They use DRS just like we do. They use it at the right times in sensible places, and they race each other, as we saw with Russell and Raikkonen, I think it was, earlier in the Alfa Romeo. So that is really good. I mean, obviously I'm having a ropey race here because I'm too busy talking and faffing around and all that good stuff. But I've had some really enjoyable AI races so far in F1. Look at this now, look. The weather conditions have changed and clouds come over. So look how this part of the track now is much darker than it was previously. That's brilliant. And then we'll drive out of the cloud in a minute and it'll start lightening up. So from a visual point of view, that looks absolutely fantastic. Oops, completely missed. Got that understeer, completely missed the turning. Get that understeer that we talked about earlier. And look now, back out in the sunshine. Doesn't that look good? That's really impressive, I think, how they do that. 5 laps of fuel, but that's okay, because we've only got 4 laps of racing. 3 laps of racing. So yeah, I think Codemasters have done a nice job graphically. We had this sort of thing in the previous game, but they've just stepped it up, just smoothened it up. Again, I'm getting really good performance as well. I have got a meaty PC, a very meaty PC actually, so I should hope it runs it well. But comparative to F1 2019, which also ran really smoothly, I've got this on very high graphic settings, and I'm getting well over 100 FPS when playing on a full field of cars in any weather conditions. So performance wise runs really nice and smooth, which is fabulous news for people on
7.3 seconds.
That's because I changed my nose cone. So performance wise, most folk shouldn't have much issue once they tweak the game to whatever whatever graphical settings they so desire. A little bit of track limits there, we'll be alright. And that's something else Codemasters do really well. They try and make it as accessible as possible to everybody. Speaking of accessibility, I'm not using it in this game, but Codemasters have also worked on the game assists to make it more accessible to those that are new to the franchise. So I'm sure there'll be quite a few new Formula 1 game fans, thanks to the lockdown COVID Formula 1 Grand Prix series and famous people like Lando Norris and whatever streaming the game, and George Russell and such like. So they've opened up the assists to make it more accessible, but I'm pleased to report, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a sim racer. From a sim racer's point of view, they've not dumbed down the difficulty level or the realism level compared to previous years, so it's still a very, thank you very much, satisfactory experience. From a driving point of view, from an experienced sim racer, while being a little bit more accessible for those who are maybe on a controller or new to racing games, new to the Formula 1 franchise. So Codemasters,
but be aware that these tyres need to last till the end of the race.
Yes, I know. Codemasters have done a really good job are dancing on that fine line between accessibility and realism. And I've said this before, and it maintains it. I wouldn't consider this a racing sim, but it's too good to be a simcade. So it's like a brand all of its own, where it's a racing game, but it's got enough sim to keep me happy. And I'm using this for review purposes. I'm using this for review purposes, the game, and doing the stream and everything, but I will play this more if and when I ever manage to get free time, because it's an enjoyable experience. Formula cars aren't really my thing normally, as I'm sure everybody well knows I like me some GTs or some classic cars. But this is a brilliant experience. I thoroughly enjoy it, and it's the kind of thing that I'm not just going through the motions to get this review out of the door. It's a thoroughly enjoyable experience, and for me, I think it's the perfect balance between playability, gameplay features, quick race excitement, handling, physics force feedback and everything, and opening the door to as many people as possible to enjoy the franchise. So I think Codemasters have really found that good balance, and with the My Team and the expanded career mode, you've really got a lot of gamified stuff to keep you interested as we're closing down the Williams now. Must be Lafitte. It's at the back. Yep, Nicholas Lafitte. Williams bringing up the rear, sadly, again in 2020. Can we get him in the last 2 laps? And then we'll go over to the YouTube comments and answer a few questions or look at anything people particularly want to look at before getting involved in My Team, which is the career portion of the game. I really hope that when I read the comments, it's not loads of people saying, this stream is awful, the quality's terrible, I can't hear you, why bother? My first one. And like I say, everything worked hunky-dory last night, and it all went Pete Tong this morning. Right, last lap. Can we get the Williams? We've got DRS, so overtakings. Not difficult at all. Look how he went to his inside line to defend. Great bit of AI behaviour, that. You've got the little radar at the front of the screen that shows you where they are relative to you. Plus I can look through my mirrors. There is a little bug in the game at the moment that if you press look left and look right at the same time, which traditionally is to show you the behind view, it stops looking either side. It just like unmaps it for some strange reason. So hopefully it's something I've reported to Cody's. So hopefully that will get resolved soon-ish with a bit of luck. There are updates coming, obviously. Like I say, July the 7th is the Michael Schumacher Deluxe Edition. We'll talk more about that later on. So they get it early, the Deluxe Edition pre-orderers. And then the full-fat normal version comes out July 10th, I believe it is, for everybody else. So we'll talk about the different versions and what you can order and everything a little bit later on in the stream. There we go, that was what you call a poor result. Now let's see how that compared towards a real race. Skip through Crofty, sorry Crofty. Pierre Gasly's doing well, 2 driver at days in a row. Good boy. Right, let's see how the result compares to the real race, shall we? Come on, Valtteri. Hey! And Hamilton second, where he finished on track. Vettel, yeah, a bit optimistic for Vettel.
A well-earned victory. Let's focus on the driver of the day.
It's not bad actually. Albon doing well.
That's got to be the flying fin. Wait, how many flying fins have we had now?
Reasonably close. Right, let's have a look at some Yow Chow comments. Shirt like an LSD trip. Thank you very much. Just bring my laptop into play for a moment because obviously the game so does not like me skipping out of the window. So, it's really hard for me to get this wedged up on my knee, so bear with me. Just hang on a second, let's have a look. In fact, you know what? Rather than looking at my laptop, I'm going to use my phone. Because that'll be a lot easier. So, let's have a butcher's at what people would like to know about Formula 1 2009. 20 even, remember the year. Comments. Skip ad. Reet. Need fight comments, be nice. Where are our comments? You know what, we'll use laptop. Ha! Can't find comments on my phone, it's too much trouble. I'm well prepared, peeps. You like it? Right then. Short like an LSD trip, that's cool. Hi Paul, Zandvoort, how's the driving? Right, from Zencore XXXXXX. Do they support direct drive wheels? So the wheel support is exactly the same as it was in F1 2019. As I say, I've got a direct drive wheel. I've got the Bodner Sim Steering version 2. I've got separate USB pedals and a separate USB steering wheel with the Fanatec Podium shifters on it. And it all works out of the box absolutely fine. There's the usual Codemasters faffing of having to go into the controller menu, create a profile, calibrate, etc, etc. But there you go, Zencore. Direct drive wheels are supported, as they were last year, and it works really nicely in my DD wheels. Alessio Bicelle would like me to do a few laps in the Haas with K-Mag. We will do that next, no problem. Shall I get the deluxe edition or the normal one from Steve McLovin? I don't know, Steve, it's up to you. The deluxe edition has the Michael Schumacher version, so we will go into, I'll show you the cars actually. So it's the Michael Schumacher deluxe edition. The classic content has basically got a few of Schumacher's cars, such as this one, the Jordan 191. The Benetton B194 and 95 from 94 and 95. And then the 2000 Ferrari, 2004 Ferrari, 2007 was Kimi's. So it's got a few of Schumacher's cars. I've mentioned it in the review, and I'll mention it as we get a little bit later into this live stream. I don't particularly like the classic content in F1 2020. I don't think the physics engine's up to scratch to fully represent historic content. So for me, I don't know the pricing difference between deluxe and normal. I don't think it's worth it for the classic content side of things. If you're going to drive classics, buy a Seto Corsa and get a mod, and you've got a way more choice. You can have full fields of a season. These are, let's say, the cars, the disparate cars. So you've got all the way up to a 2010 Red Bull, all the way down to an 88, I think it is, McLaren. Racing at the same time, just it doesn't work for me. It depends what you want. So there you go, Steve. For me, I would go for the standard edition, but it's entirely your prerogative as what you want to do on there. Mark Race. It seems Paul and Gamer Muscle both feel the force feedback is better in 20 so far. The initial impressions seem to be good. Yes, Mark, that's right. I don't think it's massively different, if I'm perfectly honest. As I mentioned earlier, I think there's a slight amount more turn in understeer, and there's a slight better feeling on oversteer moments, so when they're at the actual edge of grip and over it. So it feeds back through my controller a little bit better than the last game did. Still feels too dampened for my personal tastes, and it's still not genre leading, but it's very solid. Tom Mack, is this the PC version? Yes, sir, it is the PC version that I'm running on. Let's have a look. Zencore, I'm thinking to buy F1 2019 instead. It's way cheaper and the same thing. To be honest, you're right. It's very, very similar. F1 2019 is still a really good game. I've put the 2020 review on RaceDepartment front page and linked my 19 review on there as well, so you can see what I had to say about that. But yeah, 2019 still a good game. Although the career mode, which we'll look at shortly, is far superior in 2020. It depends what you want to buy your game for, basically. Alpha 007 Org wants to know what AI level I've got this at. I can't remember. I think I'm running it about 81 or something, 82 for the sake of this live stream, because obviously I'm live, I'm talking, so I'm not concentrating at all. But the AI, you would have to be super duper alien to beat 100%. It's really good AI there. Colin Mack, good morning, my friend. How are you? Hope you're alright up in sunny Scotland. Question from Alpha 007. Oh no, I've already done that one. Yeah, no mouse again. That's correct. My son, not our friend, in this one. Right, last question. Acano, last time I bought was 2010. I think it might be worth buying again. Yes, absolutely. This is a significant upgrade on 2010. I thoroughly enjoyed that one when it came out, but F1 2020 is far superior to 2010. So really, really could not agree more. It's well worth a shot. Right. Somebody asked for K-Mag in the hat. I went to reach for the mouse. That's annoying. Let's do K-Mag in the Haas, which I've so got used to seeing Haas in black and gold. It just doesn't feel right anymore in the white. Excuse me while I drink. Kevin Magnussen. Now, where shall we race? We'll go for Melbourne because it's on the calendar. Okay. Difficulty 81%. There you go. That's your answer. Melbourne, Australia, and Kevin Magnussen. We'll not do the full race distance because it'll get boring, but we'll have a quick pop and then we'll have a look at wet weather and then we'll go into my team and that'll round us out, I think. Any questions, please do throw them into the YouTube comments section and I will answer them at the end of this run. If you want me to look at anything in particular, let me know and we will do that for you. Give us a like and a subscribe on the Race Department YouTube channel as well. I appreciate this is amateur hour this year, live stream, my first one, and everything's gone Pete Tong at the start, so sorry about that one, but hopefully it's moderately entertaining. Right, here we go. Optimal revs, which is very hard to keep your throttle in that optimal rev range, and I've done a stupid start again. I'm going to restart that one. It's very hard. For some reason, I don't quite know if it's a design decision or what, but I can't keep a constant level on my throttle. It seems to either be going up or coming down. So drop the clutch. Find the optimum rev level. Yeah. Look at the weather conditions, how much different it looks at Melbourne than what we saw last time out. You see the, whoa, dive bomb going on from the AlphaTauri there, which has also cost me a bit of front wing damage with George Russell. Sorry, George.
Mind that front wing. It'll need replacing if it takes too much damage.
And again, visually, look how beautiful it looks. How very different the atmosphere. We've got a bit of smog or heat haze or whatever it might be in the background. As you're going in, oops, as you're going in and out of the, oh, my pop shield. Didn't like that bit of hand contact. Look at that one later. But as you're going in and out of the trees in the shadows and the sun's popping through the misty clouds, they've really got the atmosphere in F1 2020 really down.
Stay focused.
I think it looks fantastic and runs smooth as well, so it's not a huge performance hit in the Codemasters game engine. It's been ages since I've driven Melbourne. I've almost forgot which direction the track goes. We'll have a look at the Hanoiing Vietnamese Grand Prix circuit after this one as well. I really don't like Hanoi at all. So there you go, that's the AlphaTauri that did the dive bomb. Heading down pit road for some repairs, which is cool. Drivers retire as well. We saw Charles Leclerc pull into the side of the road in the last race. So they retire from mechanicals and they also retire from accident damage as well. Which again, as I say, it's just a really great single player implementation in this game. As I had a bit of an assault. Some of these contacts that you've seen during this live stream as well, it's because I'm not fully concentrated on the driving. They're kind of moves that in reality you as a driver would give space in that scenario, but I have limited mental capacity to talk and drive at the same time, whilst trying to ignore the fact that my wife's cooking bacon sandwiches downstairs and I can smell them, and they smell delicious. Which is both evil and frustrating, to be fair, when she knows full well that I can't have one because I'm doing this. I shall be having porridge, no doubt, which is a hearty breakfast. But it's not a bacon sandwich. Bacon and mushroom with brown sauce, by the way, that's the combination. Winner, winner. Anyway, we digress. Now, one thing I want to talk about in handling terms, and this is something that blighted all the Formula 1 games, let's be perfectly honest about it. I'm driving a Haas now. Last time out, I can't remember what car we were in last time, what were we just driving? Like McLaren. Last time out we were in the McLaren. They don't feel significantly different. The performance is different, obviously what they're capable of doing, the engine, engine power, etc. But from a handling point of view, it's not night and day difference between the different cars. So, if you drive something like a Assetto Corsa Competizione, for example, and you drive the different GT3 machines, they're all wildly different, and you pick one that suits your particular driving taste and style. See, that's a slide I would never have been able to catch in 2019. That would have just been round and pirouetted. But in F1 2020, oh, been hit. That was dirty, I think. Let's watch a replay. Change camera. To Williams. Okay. My fault. But we will use something that I don't like, but it's convenient for the sake of doing this. We'll use flashback. Which is the... Which button is it? I don't know. Return button? Nope, let's pause. I don't know, which one's flashback? F1? Yay! Great, ha, there we go. Bit of guesswork required. And that will allow the Williams, I'm going to let him go around the outside, because that's a dangerous place to find myself. And it gives me DRS, which is awesome. What were we talking about? Ah, handling, yeah. The cars don't feel wildly different from each other, which again I think it's probably down to an accessibility. They're not really focused on, they're not built, these cars, with masses of data from Formula 1 teams. It's an approximation of what they feel they should look like, because Formula 1's a super secretive sport, of course. The audio's different though. You can hear this one, this is the Haas with the Ferrari engine. I like the Honda sounding motor. In-game best, I think. But you can tell they've got their own distinct audio, and they have got performance, as I mentioned at the top of the show. You're not going to get in a Williams and go win the races on a decent difficulty level. The Williams are going to be where the Williams are, the Haas is going to be where the Haas is, so the speed is there, but it just doesn't feel massively different. I'm not like suddenly thinking, for example, I've got masses of understeer or oversteer in this car compared to the Macca last time out. But these are things you kind of overlook for the overall experience that you get with everything else. It's not... If this was one of the big four sims, let's say, then you'd be really critical and you'd be really looking deep into the physics and force feedback and what data have they used and how close of an approximation to real life cars is it. But you don't expect that from Formula 1 games. It's not what it's about. And that's perfectly fine. As I say, I'm having a great time. I know this is not the best showcase of what the racing quality is like, so again, just get me excuses in quick, because we're talking and driving. But you can see it's an enjoyable racing experience. You can take the rough example that I've given you and multiply that into doing it properly and seriously, up in the difficulty level and really concentrating on the game in hand. And you can see why. This is a very, very fun game. In fact, I could argue this is probably more fun than actual Formula 1 is. Remember to shift gears. I'm so used to being in the GT3 where you take it to the end of the rev range, it's so hard to remember a Formula 1 car's got a real fast up and down shift. So you're going to go up, 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 up. Where in a GT car, obviously you're taking it up to the red line. The red line comes so much sooner in a Grand Prix car. Look how fast we're up the gears. So easy to forget that if you leave it 3 or 4 tenths a second longer than you should have done, you're bouncing off the rev limiter at the top of the range. So we'll take this up to the pit stop, then we'll check the questions, and then we'll go and have a look at my team career mode. I want to get past Latifi. Feels frustrating I've not done. I want to put a nice clean pass on. Show you what racing's like. So let's get focused. Gonna see if we can get close enough to get him into T1 or T3. Get too much curb, and that's pushed us wide, and that's blown T1 opportunities because we were too greedy on the curves. We've got DRS though, so we can have another pop into T3 potentially.
A new strategy is available on the MFD.
Not fast enough through T1.
You'll be on the hards.
So you can change strategy just like in F1 2019. You've got the MFD, the multifunction display, that gives you a pop-up list of options, which I'll just pop up on screen now. Again, ideally I'd have this programmed on my wheel if I had the right wheel. So you can change a few things on the fly. Broadly very similar to what we saw last year. Tyre wear, your different temps, the engine components, which is particularly important this year because in my team you're obviously the team owner as well as the driver, so you'll be using and replacing various parts on your car. Skip that corner, there we go, we're right. Using various parts up on the car as well, so you have to keep your eye on that one. You've got, like in Formula 1, only so many parts that you can use over the course of a season until you start receiving penalties and everything, and then you can allocate resources during the course of your My Team career to work on reliability and performance in certain aspects and everything, which is really nice. Try and fix my guard, there we go, which is a really nice option. I'm going to pass Latifi before the pit stops, and then we're going to turn it off and look at the comments. Sounds nice. Let's have a listen to the Ferrari engine. Nice being a relative word, obviously. I'm not saying it sounds nice in the grand scheme of things, but in terms of trying to replicate what the real life version sounds like, it sounds nice. It would sound a heck of a lot better if it was a screaming V12. But hey ho, let's not live in the past, Paul. Bit greedy on the throttle there. Right, we're not going to pass Latifi, so let's run to the end of this lap, then we'll exit. We'll have a look, see what everybody else wants to talk about, and then we'll go into my team. In fact, should we do a spectacular crash? Let's have a look at the damage. Let's do a spectacular crash. Let's do a Giovinazzi and see if we can tank it. Oh no, it's China. Giovinazzi crashed, not Australia. We'll crash into T1. In fact, there's a car coming out of pit lane. Let's see if we can catch you up and hit him.
In this lap, push now.
Damage is really nice on this one. Unfortunately, if you retire, it does the same as it did last year, where it brings up the hole, the car gets greyed out, you get a choice to restart, blah blah blah. But I'd like to see it carry the crash on a little bit longer for spectacular replays. That would be cool. But they do a very nice job in the accident damage department. So let's crash here. No, it's not. It's rubbish corner for crashing. Too much runoff. Let's crash here.
Okay, box. We're adjusting the strategy.
Look at that, I've got my front wing stuck in the halo.
The virtual safety car is out. That was a heck of
There we go.
impact. Let me know you're okay.
And it does that, which is frustrating. But that was cool. The front wing got stuck in the halo, which is something to think about in terms of danger. Now it's gone to a... All very good. Right. Retire from session. Back to the main menu. Let's have a look. If anybody wants to know anything. Bang my head into that again. Kevin Magnussen looking disgruntled, which, if the weekend just gone is anything to go by, there's going to be a lot more of that for Kevin Magnussen, I'm afraid.
Superb Australian Grand Prix comes to an end. Red Bull put up an outstanding fight
Alex Albon
today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the
He had a
sport,
good race
you can't help but be
in
delighted
Austria.
by today's race win. Now, let's discuss, Ants.
Right.
Who would you say is a contender for drive?
For some reason my laptop's decided to turn off because it's junk. So I will fire that one back up while we're reloading in, and then we'll go have a look at my team if there's nothing that anybody particularly wants to know in the comments. Ah, we're on. Grand. Right. Bring laptop on my neck. Paul, there was another question from me in the top, please. Oh, Alessio. Tell me what it is. Alessio. The driver's classification on the top left corner now shows 5 drivers. Is there an option to show more? I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm not sure. We'll have a look at that next time we fire it up and find out. Wow, this is so difficult doing this. I need a desk. You may want to shift up when the red lights start to flash. Yes, tell me about it. Mark Race. Oh no. The problem with 2019 is the lake for supporting direct drive wheels. I heard many people have problems. Oh, that's nothing. What level of AI was at wet Silverstone and dry Austria? That's the video for, by the way, for people that may wonder, the gameplay video on YouTube. The answer to that one is 86 or 89. No, it might be 90, 92. 92. Thanks for the live stream and review. Looking forward to playing tomorrow. No problem. Okay, great. Right. Let's have a look at my team. Just get that one playing again in the background so I know it's working. Let's have a look at my team. Start a new career. So, my team. We'll look at this one in more detail in a video on the Race Department YouTube, so please do go and check that one out. But you can set up your character, which we shall do first. That's the one I set up on the YouTube, but we'll create a new one. First things first, you got a selection of different driver avatars, different races, sexes, shapes, facial hairs, everything and anything you could wish for. So we'll go for this hardy looking chap. Pick your nationality. Great Britain. Put your name in. And your initials that show up on the race. Here, they've got different audio names, so I'm assuming that the commentators and the reporters and your engineer and everything have got certain things programmed in. Sadly, none of mine are in, so I'm going to leave that at none. And then pick your driver number that you'll carry throughout your Grand Prix career. Goes all the way up. This is naming this. I wonder what's happened here. Need to work on that. So I picked number 82. You'll carry that one. If you win the World Championship, you'll have the option of carrying the number 1 into the following season as well. So there we go. That's our driver setup. So we shall select him.
Let's get this team up and running. The first thing we need to do is register a team name. First, enter a team name.
So register a team name, which I'd love to say I could use the mouse for. RD Livestream Fun Team. Oh, not got enough.
Now, let's choose our primary sponsor.
So now, you've got sponsors that you can select in your custom liveries and also through your online career. So,
Some sponsors offer a larger
There you
signing bonus up front. Some offer more weekly income. The better we perform, the more our level will go up as the team gains.
so I wish I could skip this guy, but I can't. So, bear in mind that Codemasters have suggested in this early review that balancing of sponsors still needs a little bit of tweaking, so it might be a little bit wild on parts. But we've picked that one. Pick that one, so let's pick the engine. So these guys are all rated based on performance and durability.
We're going to have people and facilities to invest in as well. Power unit suppliers will also provide upgrades throughout the season at no extra cost.
Yep, so these here, again, based broadly on how Formula 1 works in reality, but you've only got a limited amount of budget, so you can't spend everything all at once and be struggling for something later on like a driver or whatever. So we'll go for the Merc, and then these are your drivers that you can choose from.
Can get us good results, as long as we can afford them. Oh, and we renew contracts every few races, so you'll have plenty of chances to sign someone else should the need arise.
Worth noting, these drivers swap around each time you restart the career, so this is a different 4 set of drivers to pick from than I had when I did my video earlier, which is quite cool. So I'm going to go for...
Looks like we can't afford this power unit supplier and teammate. Let's go back into one of those and sign someone cheaper.
So we can't afford them both, and he's the cheapest driver out there.
To offset the cost.
So what we've got to do is change the engine for a cheaper one. So let's go for a Honda.
Looks like we can afford this power unit supply. Let's select or edit the livery
Job done.
running this season.
And now we can change our team livery. So I did a beautiful Race Department livery last time out, as you do. But again, just to spin it through real quick, you've got a selection of different templates that you can start with. Michael Schumacher special one there, look. Selection of different templates that you can start with, and then you can go in and tweak the colour schemes as you see fit by pressing F2, and then you've got all the usual stuff, the different hue, saturation and luminance of each particular livery, which is nice. And then sponsors, same thing. You've got a whole bunch of sponsors that you can apply to different parts of the car. So I'm going to stick with the RD one because I've already done it and it's boring, you don't want to see it. And then again, the badge, all the usual things. You've got different styles and stuff you can go with. So I'm just going to stick with what we did last time.
Last but not least, we need to pick team colours.
And then team colours, which is this line that you see down it. Again, this is what goes through your garage. So we'll just skip through that real quick.
Great. That's
Let's start the career. You can pick race lengths. We'll just go for 10. We're not going to, by the way, don't be scared, it's going to get boring. We're not going to go through it all. I'm just going to give you like a little taster of what it looks like. Pick your options and everything as to what you want. You're 82. And away we go. Enable career. Okie dokie. So just like in F1 2019, but tweaked and changed slightly, you've got the garage, which I'll let... Oh no, we have to do an interview first. This drags on. So we do our introductory interview. This is falling down again. It's really annoying. Here we go. So hopefully I can speak over the top of him and you can hear me still, but this is just the usual thing. You get asked questions, you get quick fire answers that you've got to select, and then whatever you answer will potentially dictate changes to the world environment, your reputation, your knowledge, the team motivation, working on certain areas of the car, etc., which is important as the career progresses because that will influence how your car changes, media opportunities and team driver contracts. It's a 10-year career, of course. Sadly, I can't skip this, which is a shame, so look at any questions come in. So, I don't like these sorts of cutscene things. It it gets in the way of going out on track as far as I'm concerned, to be perfectly honest. But some people adore this sort of thing, so we're just going to randomly pick any answer just to get through it, because we don't care for this one. If you make certain answers, certain departments are seen to notice it, and that will influence things like chassis development or driver development. They're not noticing any of my answers on this one. Oh, chassis department will notice that, so that'll give you a slightly better chassis, for example. Powertrain department.
Well, that's about all we've got time for.
Good, good.
Here we will see how this fledgling team fares in its first Grand Prix.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's run.
So they're different from what they were in previous years, which is nice. They've changed things up a little bit, which is good. And then we get to the team HQ. So the central area where you can see your facilities, your messages and everything, but we're just going to advance time straight through to the car launch and straight through to the first race. I talk about some of these things a bit more in the My Team preview video, so you can go and watch that one if you want a little bit more detail. And I don't want to spoil things because it'll spoil it for you when you get out on track in a game anyway. So this is our new Race Department Williams livery. Whoop whoop. We'll just go and do the first practice session real quick. Then I'll show you wet weather, Hanoi, and then we'll wrap up for the day, I think, because my throat's starting to hurt and that bacon sandwich smells evil in how delicious it is. So don't forget, any questions, throw them into the Race Department comments section, please, on YouTube, and I'll get round to answering those as soon as we've finished
I think we
our
could
first
better manage
practice.
our time by organising some team activities. Head to the activity screen to see what we have available.
So when you're doing it, you can get fully involved. It's a bit like Football Manager, but motor racing. So go to race weekend at Bahrain. I hope you're enjoying this, by the way, because it's my first one. Nervous. Let's see how it goes. Right, let's drive our car. First time on track. Whoop, whoop. By the way, it's Bahrain, in case you were wondering, because we picked the 10 race series and not the full. Because our team garage, look, let's have a look round. Busy, busy. Busy, busy. Right, see, no, button number 9. There we go, in the bottom left right hand corner. Exit workstation. Which one's button 9? I don't know. Press enter and see what happens. Does wind me up. Really does wind me up, that. But, ayo, small price. It's small things that spoil it. So,
Hey boss, this is Jeff.
hello Jeff. I'm Jeff as well.
Me as your race engineer. I won't let you down. The car is ready to go, but it's brand new, of course, so there may be a few issues here and there. We'll be keeping a close eye on all the data.
So that's quite cool. You got to develop it as it goes. So button 7's drive out. I don't know what that is. So let's go pit laning.
Right now, so take a few laps to get the tyres up to temperature. Try and feel your way around.
Auto drive out still looks a bit awkward. Watch this. Still a bit. Don't quite know why they've never got that right. That's still a bit. Bleh. So here we go in our very first Formula 1 car. Yay. How good's that? And you are the 11th team, so you are racing in the full Formula 1 World Championship against real teams and drivers. There are driver swaps, just like in 2019, sorry, so drivers will move to different teams. I dare say if you become successful, you can sign whoever the big driver of the day is, which is quite cool. And you'll be able to take a pick of the Formula 2 crop of talent as well for the young up-and-comers. Ooh, a bit locked up there. Oh, one thing I do want to show you. Let's see if it lets me do it in the options. One thing I do want to show you, which is nice. Preferences. Here we go. You've got camera customization. I don't know if this was in the last game. I never noticed it, to be perfectly honest. So, different cameras, obviously, TV pod, and all the different malarkey. But you can change field of view. Huzzah! you've also got the opportunity to zoom in and zoom out so you can get the right view for you, which is really good. Go up and down so you can get out of the way of the halo and all that good stuff. So that's fabulous that they've got that. Bravo to Codemasters. Couldn't remember who it was then. Bravo to Codemasters for implementing all this. As I say, I don't know if this was in the last game. You can turn the halo on and off as well. So there we go. I turn the halo off, but I really can't stand that because it's not realistic. So there you go. That's career mode, and that just leaves us. And obviously I'm not going to play it all the way through. I might. Depends if this is popular or not. Tell me if you want more of this, by the way. And if you do, because I'm currently unemployed at the moment, so I have time. If you do want more of this, I could stream maybe a career mode or something. So if you're interested, let me know in the comment section, please, on YouTube. And if you're not interested, then keep stum so you don't offend me. Only joking. Let's have a look now. Last but not least, before we call it a day, or call it a morning, let's have a look at rain. Rain, rain, go away. Come again another day. Rain is awesome in F1 2019. 2020 even, Paul. Remember what year it is, son. Race Department. Good lord. Rain. Rain is awesome in F1 2020. So we'll go for... Who should we be? Who shall we be? Quick pop quiz. First person to comment. What car shall I use? 3, 2, 1. Boom. Comments. What car? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Somebody tell me in the YouTube comments. Which car am I going to drive? Which car, which car, which car? Come on, guys. Tell me. Let's have a look. My nose looks massive from this view, so hurry, hurry. Which car? AlphaTauri. Thank you very much from Lepata. Much appreciated. That's the first ever time I've engaged in comments. That's quite cool. AlphaTauri, and we'll go for a Danek Kvyat. And then the track. What's a good one in the rain? Spa's laughable. Let's do Spa because it's really, really, really poor. Weather, we'll go for wet. Check the weekend structure. Yeah, that'll do me. Right. Fair warning here. Spa is, if you're if you've driven Spa in ACC, which is laser scanned, or iRacing even, which I'm sure is in there as well, laser scanned. This is weird because the corners go nothing like it does on there. One thing I do want to say, and this bugged the daylights out of me, look, everyone's got a rain jacket on, which is something Codemasters did not do in previous games, so that's awesome. They've all got appropriate weather clothing, apart from the poor media guy that has to keep his tabard on his chest. So, yeah, wicked. Right. Find optimal revs. Look how beautiful that looks. The spray. Fantastic. We're on the outside into La Source, which is always a bit leery, especially in the rain. Our teammate, Pierre Gasly, gives us a little hip and shoulder. Got to be careful on throttle, but look how good that looks. Doesn't that look magic? Really impressed. I thought I was on a GT3 car that I geared down up through a rouge. You do not need to do that in Formula 1. Check behind me, we're covered. But doesn't it look great? And you'll see the dry line becoming more prominent. Whoa. As we go around, you need to be really careful on the throttle. But you noticed that wasn't intended to be an overtake, that's just I ran up the inside. You'll notice that I've caught a slide a couple of times, so it's much, much more natural to catch a slide in 2020 than it was in the last game. You can feel it coming, you've got a bit of pre-warning through your steering wheel, and you've got more space to be able to do something about it, which is awesome, because sometimes it did feel in 2019 like when the car's gone, the car has gone. And I know it's a high downforce Formula car, so that often is probably not too unrealistic, but this, if you're quick enough with the opposite lock, you can recover the slide, which is good news. Yeah, look how good this looks. Doesn't that look great? They really do well. The settings I'm using here, I've got RTX 2080 Ti and i9 processor, so I've got a meaty PC, and it's running this pretty much maxed out. I'm doing 1920 by 1080 resolution, despite it being a very big widescreen monitor, just for the I've lost it. Just for the streaming aspect. Let's just restart that one. Just for the streaming aspect, I don't really know how to use OBS on a widescreen and get it to come out on a normal size screen for the video. But even using the more horsepower intensive full screen version for me gives out really nice performance. So they've done a good job of optimization, which they have to do, I suppose, because this one comes out on consoles as well, and they need to be comparable products. So flat in the rain at Eau Rouge in a Formula 1 car. Just wow. Shows how mentally grippy Formula 1 cars are. Check behind, mate, we're okay. We'll just run it up to the pit stops, and then we'll give our final conclusions and we'll call it a day. Unless you're all sat there chomping at the bit for more, which I doubt greatly. But if you are, let me know. Let me know in the chat, please, if you've got any specific questions about the game as well, or anything particular you want me to focus in on before we call it quits for the day. I'm happy to have a look at anything that you're particularly interested in, or if I don't know the answer to something, then we'll have a look together and see if we can find that answer out. So do give me a shout in the comments section for those of you watching this live, and I'll be happy to have a look and answer those questions. But while we're going round, I don't think wet weather has aquaplaning. I'm not entirely sure. It has massively reduced grip, but I've not really noticed huge puddles even as such. So Radion, for anybody who drives ACC, at the top of Eau Rouge, is famous of course for the river going across it and putting you into a difficult situation the second you get near it. I've not noticed anything like that in F1 2020 yet, but I do think they've done a really stellar job with the wet conditions in this game. I think it looks the absolute business, and the handling is absolutely lovely in the rain. It's really quite nicely believable. Trying to accelerate on a curb then's not a bright idea. Doesn't it look atmospheric? But can you see what I mean about the Spa? Whoa! Eau Rouge, bad. Oh, don't get hit. Wow, brown trousers. That was spicy. Let's watch that on replay. Ah, too late. The replays are too short. I've hit my rear quarter on the wall, so in real life that would have been a new set of trousers and end of the day. So we'll call it quits at that one, I think, folks, and we'll just very quickly summarise. Let me see if there's any questions. It's Paul. You go for your first bacon sandwich, mate. Cheers, brother. Okay. In summary, then, I've done a written review at RaceDepartment and a pre-recorded review video so on our YouTube channel, so feel free to pop over and have a look at that one. I said in my written review, and I think this is fair to say, if you don't like F1 2019, it's doubtful you're going to like F1 2020. They're in the same family. They carry the same DNA. If you're new to the Formula 1 franchise, I think there's enough sim in this game and enough gameplay in this title to satisfy the hardcore requirements and the more average player desires. I think as an offline racing experience, it's beyond compare of anything else. It's fantastic for the career mode, the AI, the whole atmosphere of it and everything. It's absolutely fabulous. It is pricey, especially if you've got the previous games, so you have to look at your fiscal situation to decide whether it's worth it to you. But for me, I'm a heavy-duty sim racer, and I really like playing this game. I've looked forward to getting back into it again to record these videos. I've looked forward to this live stream to have a play today. And once, this is my final commitment with F1 2020 now, this live stream, unless there's a massive cry out to do a live stream career mode. But I will play it some more, for sure. When I've got availability and time to get on the rig, this is going to compete for my attention without any shadow of a doubt. It's good handling, fabulous graphics, fabulous performance, unbelievably good offline career mode. My team, if that's your bag, is a very interesting thing. I'm yet to see what it's like in an online environment. Whether I go there or not, I'm not sure. But there's plenty of stuff to do, plenty of customization. It's a step up over and above 2019. That was also a very good game. So, gets my seal of approval. I really, really like it. And on that note, folks, I'm going to work out how to end a night live stream, which is something I've never done before. So that'll be fun. Thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate it. You're on the Race Department YouTube channel. We would love it if you could give us a subscribe, give us a like on this video. Check out our other Formula 1 videos we've posted. And if you like things with roofs on, can't tell you what it is or when it's going to be, but stay tuned because I've got some really interesting stuff coming up on that one. More about that later on in the week. Thank you for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. Until next time, I'm going to be here for the next 2 hours trying to find out how to end this live stream. I've been Paul. This has been RDTV. We've been driving Formula 1 2020. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye. Now, how do I turn it off? The mouse. The mouse. Here we go. End stream. See you later.